Gold does not care who touches it. It shines the same in every hand. But the people who chased it in 1849 cared very much. They cared about skin color. They cared about power. And they cared about keeping secrets buried. That is why no one expected a black woman to walk into California during the gold rush and leave richer than every white miner around her. And that is why what happened to her still whispers through history like a warning. Her name was Mary Ellen Hayes. When she arrived in Sacramento, she carried only a worn leather satchel and a silence that made men uneasy. 5 years later, she was one of the wealthiest individuals in the territory. By modern standards, her fortune would be worth millions. But here is the part history avoids. Not 1 ounce of her gold came from mining. And when she vanished in the winter of 1856, the truth vanished with her. Weeks later, the satchel was found near a stand of cottonwood trees. It was empty. The ground around it had been torn apart by desperate hands. Whatever had once been inside was gone. And Mary Ellen Hayes disappeared as if she had never existed. Before we continue, if you are fascinated by forgotten history and dark stories the textbooks ignore, subscribe to Liturgy of Fear, hit the notification bell, and tell us in the comments what state you are listening from. Now let us go back to the beginning. The year was 1850. California was not a place of hope. It was a place of hunger. The gold rush had turned the territory into chaos. Men flooded in from every corner of America. Farmers, clerks, failed businessmen, desperate dreamers. They ripped apart mountains, poisoned rivers, and turned on each other for claims that often produced nothing but mud. By the time Mary Ellen Hayes arrived, the easy gold was gone. What remained required money, machines, and brutal labor that broke bodies before age 40. San Francisco barely resembled a city. It was a mess of tents, wooden shacks, and buildings thrown together so fast they leaned like drunks. The streets were mud in winter and dust in summer. Ships rotted in the harbor. Their crews had abandoned them to chase gold inland. Some ships were dragged onto land and turned into hotels and saloons. Their masts stuck up from rooftops like skeletons. The population was mostly male. Violent. Temporary. For every woman, there were 50 men. For every black woman, almost none. Mary Ellen Hayes stepped off the steamship quietly. She was tall for a woman of her time, nearly 5'10". Broad shoulders. Strong hands scarred by labor. Her skin was dark. Her hair was wrapped in a simple cotton scarf. Her eyes revealed nothing. She wore a gray dress and heavy boots. And she never let go of the satchel. She stayed one night in a boarding house on Pacific Street. They charged her 3 times what they charged white guests. She did not argue. She paid. She slept with her back against the door and the satchel pressed to her chest. She left before sunrise. 3 days later, she arrived in Sacramento by riverboat. The Sacramento River was packed with traffic. Steamships, barges, canoes, anything that floated. The boat she took was called the Senator. It shook with every turn of its paddle wheels. Black smoke poured from its stack. Mary Ellen stayed on deck the entire trip. She refused to go below. Men stared at her with curiosity and open hostility. Sacramento sat where 2 rivers met. A city born overnight. Wooden buildings lined muddy streets. Their signs promised fortune and glory. Behind the paint, everything was weak and temporary. White miners controlled the city. Chinese workers labored on abandoned claims. Mexican miners were pushed off land they once owned. Native villages had been destroyed by disease and murder. Black people lived under constant threat. California was a free state, but freedom was fragile. Black testimony was not allowed against white men in court. Black miners were driven away by mobs. Black women were assumed to be property or prostitutes. Mary Ellen Hayes was 32 years old. She said she came from Missouri. She said she had been enslaved. She said she bought her freedom. She never explained how. She rented a small room above a laundry on K Street. The landlord, Horace Vance, expected her to beg. Instead, she paid 3 months in advance with gold coins. The room was barely large enough for a bed and a trunk. A single window faced an alley where rats fought over garbage. "You got work lined up?" Vance asked. "I will find something," she said. He suggested work that insulted her. She repeated herself. He did not push further. Something about her unsettled him. She did not act grateful. She did not act afraid. She acted like she did not need anyone. For 2 weeks, she observed. She studied buildings, businesses, people. She visited the land office and studied maps for hours. She went to Wells Fargo and asked about deposits. She watched riverboats unload cargo. Then, on her 15th day in Sacramento, she did something that shocked everyone. She bought a building, not a shack, not a tent, a 2-story brick building on J Street. The previous owner was a broken man named Thomas Gaines. He had paid $8,000 for it in 1849. The market collapsed. His wife left. His children were gone. He drank himself into ruin. No one wanted the building. Mary Ellen offered him $3,500. He laughed. Then she opened the satchel. She counted out the gold. And in that moment, Sacramento realized something terrifying. This woman did not mine gold. She understood something far darker. And this was only the beginning. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think was inside that satchel. Part 2 will reveal how Mary Ellen Hayes built her fortune without ever touching a mine. Part 2. Some money makes people curious. Other money makes people afraid. When Mary Ellen Hayes poured $3,500 in gold onto a desk in Sacramento, fear entered the room with it. The coins were real. Double eagles. Eagles. Half eagles. All genuine. All gleaming in the afternoon light that cut through the dusty land office window. Thomas Gaines counted the money once. Then again. Then a third time. His hands shook as he stacked the coins. Sweat ran down his neck. He kept looking up at Mary Ellen, half expecting her to disappear like a trick of the light. But she did not vanish. She stood quietly, still, watching him finish. "Where did you get this?" he finally asked. "I worked for it." "Worked how?" "That is my business, Mr. Gaines. Do we have a deal or not?" Gaines signed the deed. He took the gold and left Sacramento that very day. He did not wait for second thoughts. He did not wait for advice. Something inside him screamed to get as far away from that woman as possible. Years later, dying in a charity hospital in Philadelphia, he would still think of her. Not because he sold the building too cheap, but because he knew he had touched something he did not understand. Within a week, Sacramento was buzzing. A black woman, a former slave, owning property on J Street. Where did the money come from? The rumors multiplied like flies. She stole it. She was fronting for a white man. She had been paid off by a rich lover. She ran a brothel. She laundered money for criminals. She found buried Spanish gold. None of it was true. What frightened people most was not what they believed. It was what they could not explain. Mary Ellen did nothing to calm the rumors. She did not open a store. She did not open a saloon. She did not rent rooms. The building sat empty. She hired carpenters to fix the roof. She replaced broken windows. Then she locked the doors and walked away. Men watched that building every day, waiting for meaning, waiting for explanation. None came. Then, in March of 1851, she did something that confused everyone even more. She began buying land, not mining claims, not riverbeds. She bought land no one wanted. Flat land, flooded land, worthless land. Her first purchase was 40 acres along the Cosumnes River, 15 miles south of Sacramento. The seller was William Driscoll, a farmer from Iowa who had lost everything. That land flooded every winter, turned hard as brick in summer. Nothing would grow. When Mary Ellen offered him $150, he nearly laughed from relief. "You planning to farm?" he asked. "Maybe," she said. "That land will wash everything away. I will keep that in mind." Driscoll left California convinced he had fooled her. He told the story in every saloon. People laughed until tears ran down their faces. Then she bought 60 acres near Freeport. Then 80 along Dry Creek. Then more, and more. By the end of summer, she owned over 300 acres of useless land. People stopped laughing. They started watching. And then Mary Ellen Hayes disappeared. In late August, she told Horace Vance she would be back before winter. She packed a mule, she took her satchel, and she rode south into the foothills alone. No guide, no companions. The mountains were death. Grizzly bears still roamed there. Mountain lions. Rattlesnakes thick as a man's arm. There were abandoned mining camps filled with desperate men. Men who would kill for gold. There were native groups pushed into the hills by violence. People with no reason to show mercy. She will not come back, Vance told his wife. Nobody goes into those mountains alone and survives. 3 months passed. Then one gray afternoon in November, she returned. The mule staggered under the weight of its load. Mary Ellen was thinner, burned by sun, her clothes torn and filthy. But she was alive, and the satchel was full. She went straight to Wells Fargo. The clerk was a young man named Peter Whitlock. Fresh from Boston, still hopeful. "I need to make a deposit," she said. "How much, ma'am?" She opened the satchel. Gold spilled across the counter. The sound echoed through the room like falling bones. $4,000, she said. Whitlock counted twice. His hands trembled. "Where did this come from?" he asked. "I found it." "Found it where?" "In the ground." "Do you have a claim?" "No." Whitlock hesitated. "Are you accepting the deposit or not, Mr. Whitlock?" He accepted it. Then he told his manager. George Sutherland listened in silence. $4,000 from a woman with no claim, no mine, no partners. Sutherland knew something was wrong. Not illegal, but dangerous. And Mary Ellen Hayes was just getting started. If this story has you hooked, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think Mary Ellen really found in the mountains. Part 3 will reveal why powerful men began watching her very closely. Part 3. Some secrets do not stay hidden because they are well protected. They stay hidden because the truth breaks the people who chase it. By the time Mary Ellen Hayes made her third deposit at Wells Fargo, fear had replaced curiosity in Sacramento. She said she found it. That was all. George Sutherland sat behind his desk, fingers drumming against the wood. $7,500 already deposited. Now another $4,000. That was more gold than most miners would see in a lifetime. "Where is a black woman getting that kind of money?" he muttered. He did not expect an answer. He expected trouble. Word spread. Before the sun had fully risen, Mary Ellen Hayes was back. And she was richer than ever. The rumors came back louder and uglier than before. A hidden mine, Spanish treasure, outlaws, grave robbing, deals with devils. Men who had once laughed now whispered. Mary Ellen did not slow down. She bought 2 more parcels of land. Then she hired 3 white laborers to build on one of her properties near Freeport. Their names were John Farley, Michael Brennan, and Thomas Yates. $2 a day. Good pay. No questions. She told them to build a barn and dig irrigation ditches. The land flooded every winter. The work made no sense. "What are you planning to grow?" Farley asked. "That depends on the soil," she said. "The soil is no good." "I know. Then why build this? Just build what I am paying you to build." They worked. They wondered. They speculated by firelight. "She is crazy," Brennan said. She knows something we do not," Farley replied. None of them ever saw her dig for gold. When the work was done, she paid them and left. Again. This time she was gone only a month. When she returned in January of 1852, she walked straight into Wells Fargo and deposited $3,000 more. Peter Whitlock did not ask questions this time. He just counted the coins and watched her leave. George Sutherland went to the sheriff. Daniel Coburn listened carefully. "Unless you have proof of a crime, there is nothing I can do," Coburn said. Sutherland left angry, but someone else had made up his mind. Samuel Pritchard, 43 years old, broken by failure. 2 years of mining had given him nothing but hunger and shame. He had left a wife and 3 children behind with promises he could not keep. When he heard about Mary Ellen Hayes, it felt like an insult carved into his bones. She had not worked the rivers. She had not suffered the way he had. And yet she was rich. It was not fair. So he followed her. Quietly, patiently. He watched her properties. He watched her walk the land like she was listening to it. Then on February 14th, he saw her ride out with a mule, a shovel, and the satchel. She stopped near a grove of old cottonwood trees along the Cosumnes River. Pritchard hid in the brush. He watched her kneel. He watched her dig. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might give him away. After more than an hour, she reached into the ground and pulled something out. From a distance, he could not see what it was. But he saw the satchel sag with weight. He waited until she was gone. Then he ran. The hole was gone. She had erased it completely. He dug anyway. With his hands. With sticks. With rocks. He dug until his fingers bled. He dug all night. By morning, he had destroyed the land and found nothing. But he knew what he had seen. He went to the sheriff. Daniel Coburn listened as Pritchard spoke in a hoarse rush of words. "You followed her," Coburn said. "Yes. You trespassed on her land. I saw her take it." Coburn stood. "You leave Miss Hayes alone. If I hear of this again, I will arrest you." Pritchard nodded. But inside him, something had snapped. He did not leave her alone. He followed her again. And again. Then, one night in March, he made a mistake. Mary Ellen had returned late from one of her properties. She noticed the sound of boots behind her. She stopped. Pritchard froze. She turned slowly. "You have been following me," she said. He stammered. "I just want to know." "Know what?" "Where the gold comes from." She studied him for a long moment. Her eyes were not afraid. They were tired. "You do not want to know," she said. "I do." "No, you think you do." She stepped closer. "Some things are not meant to be taken. Some things belong to the land." Pritchard laughed nervously. "That is superstition." She leaned in. "The land remembers." Then she walked away. Pritchard never followed her again. 2 weeks later, Samuel Pritchard vanished. His tent was found abandoned near Auburn. His claim untouched. His supplies gone. No body was ever found. Some said he went mad and wandered into the mountains. Some said he drowned in a river. Others whispered that he found what Mary Ellen had warned him about. By summer, 2 more men who had been asking questions disappeared. And Mary Ellen Hayes kept buying land. If this story is pulling you deeper, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think the land was hiding. Part 4 will reveal what the cottonwood trees were really guarding. Part 4. Some places do not give up their secrets easily. They take something in return. By the spring of 1852, the cottonwood groves along the Cosumnes River had a reputation. Animals avoided them. Birds did not nest there. And men who lingered too long reported strange things. Sounds at night. Whispers that did not belong to the wind. The feeling of being watched. Mary Ellen Hayes knew this. That was why she bought the land. Long before white settlers arrived, the Miwok people had known the truth about those trees. The cottonwoods grew where the ground stayed soft. Where water came and went. Where the earth opened and closed like a breathing mouth. The elders said the land remembered everything buried inside it. Gold was not the only thing hidden there. During the earliest days of the gold rush, men had died along the riverbanks. Some from disease. Some from violence. Some from greed. Many were buried quickly. No names. No markers. But a few graves were different. They were older. Deeper. And not meant to be disturbed. Mary Ellen Hayes had learned this in Missouri. As a child, enslaved on a river plantation, she had listened when elders spoke quietly at night. They spoke of places that fed on desperation. Places where the earth swallowed suffering and returned something else. Not blessings. Not curses. Bargains. When she escaped slavery and later bought her freedom, she carried those stories with her. When she came west, she watched where men died fastest. Where claims failed again and again. Where the land refused to give up gold unless blood followed. That was how she found the cottonwoods. She never mined. She harvested. Every time she dug, she chose carefully. Never too often. Never too much. She took what the land allowed. And she always filled the holes back in. By early summer, people began noticing changes. The fields around her properties stopped flooding as badly. The water drained faster. The soil grew darker. Her barns stayed empty, but wagons began arriving at night. Unmarked. Quiet. Men unloaded barrels and crates. They did not stay long. Mary Ellen paid in gold. No questions. No records. Sheriff Coburn heard whispers but found nothing solid. No stolen goods. No illegal claims. Just land. And silence. Then a boy went missing. His name was Eli Mercer. 16 years old, the son of a failed miner. He had been seen near the Cosoms River chasing rabbits. He did not come home. Search parties found his footprints. They ended near the cottonwood trees. They found nothing else. The river was blamed. It always was. But the Miwok refused to go near the grove. They said the ground was awake. That night, Mary Ellen rode out alone. She brought the satchel. She brought a lantern. She stood among the cottonwoods and listened. The earth was restless. She dug only once. What she found was not gold. It was a small iron box. Old, rust-eaten. Inside were coins, gold, and something else. A child's brass button. Mary Ellen closed the box and buried it deeper than before. The next morning, Eli Mercer was found alive, wandering near town, silent. He never spoke again. After that, no one followed her. No one trespassed. By the end of 1852, Mary Ellen Hayes was wealthy beyond belief. But she was thinner. Her hair showed gray, and her eyes carried a weight no gold could lift. She had learned the rule. The land always collects. In the winter of 1853, the rains came early. The rivers swelled. Floods swallowed farms. Sacramento nearly drowned. Mary Ellen's properties stayed dry. Men noticed. They begged her to sell. To teach them. She refused. Some knowledge costs too much. That winter, a man tried to dig where he should not have. His body was found days later. Buried to the chest. The ground packed hard around him. No signs of a struggle. Just terror frozen on his face. The cottonwoods stood silent. Mary Ellen began preparing to leave. She sold nothing. She transferred nothing. She simply waited, because she knew the land was nearly done with her. If this story has you hooked, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you believe the land was demanding. Part 5 will reveal why Mary Ellen Hayes could not stay forever. Part 5. Every bargain has an end. And the land never forgets what it is owed. By 1854, Mary Ellen Hayes was no longer just a curiosity in Sacramento. She was a problem. Men whispered her name in saloons and at card tables. They lowered their voices when she passed. Some crossed the street to avoid her. Others stared with open hatred. She had too much money, too much land, and no explanation anyone liked. Her deposits at Wells Fargo continued. Smaller now, less frequent, but still steady. George Sutherland stopped questioning them. Not because he understood, but because he was afraid of the answers. Mary Ellen's properties became places people avoided. Animals would not graze there. Dogs refused to cross the fences. Horses spooked for no clear reason. At night, lights were sometimes seen near the cottonwood groves. No fires, no lanterns, just a faint glow rising and fading like breath. The Miwok elders stopped coming near Sacramento altogether. They said the river was changing. Mary Ellen felt it too. The ground no longer welcomed her shovel the way it once had. The soil resisted. The earth felt tight, angry. She began to dig less. When she did dig, she found less gold. And more reminders. Old bones. Rust-eaten tools. Coins fused together by time and pressure. Once, she found a wedding ring still wrapped in decayed flesh. She reburied everything she did not take. But she knew. The land was closing. That winter, she dreamed of water rising. Of trees sinking. Of hands reaching up through the soil. She woke each night with dirt under her fingernails. In January of 1855, a stranger came to her door. His name was Elijah Moore. He wore a preacher's coat and carried a Bible that looked unused. "I want to talk to you about your land," he said. Mary Ellen did not invite him inside. "You should leave," she said. Moore smiled. "The Lord does not like secrets buried in the dark." She looked at him carefully. "This is not your concern." "Everything is my concern," he replied. "Especially when souls are involved." She closed the door. 2 nights later, Moore was found dead near the river. No wounds. No signs of violence. Just his mouth filled with mud. People began to panic. They blamed Mary Ellen. They blamed the land. They blamed God. A group of men came to Sheriff Coburn. "They want an investigation," they said. "They want her land seized." Coburn refused. "There is no law against owning land," he said. "There is no law against being rich. But even he began watching her more closely. Mary Ellen prepared quietly. She converted gold into portable form. Small bars. Coins easy to carry. She wrote letters no one ever found. She visited each property one last time. At the Cottonwood Grove, she knelt and pressed her hand to the earth. "Thank you," she whispered. The ground was cold. In the spring of 1855, she made her final deposit. $5,000. Peter Whitlock counted it in silence. That night, Sacramento flooded again. Water poured through streets. Homes collapsed. Men drowned in their sleep. Mary Ellen's properties remained untouched. That was when people stopped fearing her and started hating her. Someone tried to burn the building on J Street. The fire died on its own. Someone poisoned her mule. It survived. Someone followed her home one night. They were never seen again. By autumn, Mary Ellen Hayes had made her decision. She would leave California, not because she was afraid of the people, because she was afraid of staying too long. The land had given her wealth, freedom, power, but it was growing hungry. She sold nothing. She told no one. In December of 1856, she packed the satchel one final time. Gold, papers, things that should never have been taken. She left Sacramento before dawn. She did not take the road east. She went south, toward the cottonwoods. She intended to return something. Only the land never lets go easily. If this story is pulling you deeper, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think Mary Ellen planned to give back. Part 6 will reveal the night she never returned. Part 6. Some nights are not meant to end. They stretch forward, waiting for someone to make a mistake. The night Mary Ellen Hayes left Sacramento for the last time was cold and quiet. Too quiet. The city slept under a thin layer of fog. No dogs barked. No drunken voices echoed from the saloons. Mary Ellen moved like someone who had already said goodbye. She wore a heavy coat and sturdy boots. The leather satchel was strapped across her chest. It was heavier than it had ever been. Not just with gold. She did not take the road. She followed the river. The Cottonwood Grove waited. Those trees had stood there longer than any man alive. Their roots twisted deep into the soil, drinking from dark water below. The Miwok said the trees were markers. They grew where the earth was thin, where things could pass through. Mary Ellen reached the grove just before midnight. The moon hung low. Its light caught on the white bark of the trees, making them glow like bones. She dismounted and tied the mule to a branch. "You stay here," she whispered. The animal trembled but did not move. Mary Ellen walked into the grove alone. The ground felt soft beneath her boots. Too soft. She stopped at the place she knew by heart. The land remembered her footsteps. She knelt and set the satchel beside her. For a long moment, she did nothing. Then she began to dig. The earth opened easily, too easily. Each shovel of dirt felt warm, as if something beneath was breathing. She dug deeper than she ever had before. The hole widened. The smell changed. Not mud, not roots. Something older. Her lantern flickered. That was when she heard it. A sound like a sigh. Not from above. From below. Mary Ellen froze. She had heard it before. Only once. Years ago. When she took more than she should have. "I brought it back," she said softly. The ground shifted. She opened the satchel. Gold glinted in the lantern light. Coins. Bars. And the small iron box. She lowered them into the hole one by one. With each piece returned, the ground seemed to relax. But it was not enough. She knew it. The sigh came again, louder this time. Mary Ellen closed her eyes. "I know what you want," she said. Her voice did not shake. She reached into the satchel one last time. Her hand lingered. What she took out was wrapped in cloth. She unfolded it slowly. Inside was a bone. Small. Human. A finger. She had found it years earlier, fused with gold deep beneath the cottonwoods. She had never returned it. Until now. "I am sorry," she whispered. She placed it gently into the hole. The earth shuddered. The lantern went out. Darkness swallowed the grove. Mary Ellen felt the ground move beneath her knees. Roots shifted. Dirt slid. Hands brushed her ankle. She scrambled backward, gasping. The hole collapsed inward, sealing itself. The sigh became silence. Mary Ellen sat there for a long time. When she finally stood, she felt lighter. The satchel was nearly empty. She turned back toward the mule. It was gone. The rope lay snapped on the ground. The fog had thickened. She could barely see the trees around her. Then she heard footsteps. Not one pair. Many. They moved slowly, dragging. Wet. Mary Ellen backed away. "Who is there?" she called. No answer. The footsteps circled. The air grew cold. She understood then. The land was finished with her. But the debt was not fully paid. Mary Ellen ran. Branches tore at her coat. Roots grabbed her boots. The grove twisted. Paths vanished. She stumbled and fell hard. The satchel slid from her shoulder. Gold spilled into the dirt. The footsteps rushed closer. She reached for the satchel. Hands closed around her wrist. Not living hands. Cold. Rigid. She screamed. The sound did not travel far. At dawn, a rancher found the grove disturbed. The ground was torn apart. As if something large had fought its way free. Near the cottonwoods, a leather satchel lay open. Empty. Mary Ellen Hayes was gone. No tracks led away. No blood. No body. The sheriff organized a search. Men dug. They cut down trees. They drained parts of the river. They found nothing. By spring, the search was abandoned. Mary Ellen's properties fell into ruin. The barns collapsed. The land flooded again. Nothing would grow. People avoided the cottonwood grove completely. Even today, the ground there sinks without warning. And sometimes, when the fog is thick, people hear a woman's voice apologizing. If this story kept you listening, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think finally claimed Mary Ellen Hayes. Part 7 will reveal what happened to the land after she vanished. Part 7. Some places remember everything. Some places take what you leave behind. And some places hunger forever. After Mary Ellen Hayes disappeared, the land along the Cosumnes River became more than a story. It became a warning. The cottonwood grove stayed silent during the day. Birds circled the edges, never landing. Deer grazed cautiously, always at a distance. At night, the ground shifted. Men reported faint sounds of digging. Whispers that came from nowhere. Lanterns flickering in the fog, as if someone was still working in the fields. Her Sacramento building remained empty. The streets spoke her name only in fear. No one dared claim the gold she had left behind. The sheriff had tried to keep order. Coburn knew better than to challenge the land. It had claimed enough lives already. By 1857, rumors of Mary Ellen Hayes had grown across California. Men whispered that she had made a deal with forces older than settlers or miners. That she had discovered a secret buried under the rivers, a treasure no one else could touch. Travelers who ventured near her properties sometimes disappeared. Farmers reported their livestock missing. Stray dogs would vanish. Some claimed the rivers had swallowed entire teams of men in a single night. At the land office, nothing changed. The deeds were still in her name. No heirs came forward. No letters arrived. Only the land remembered her. Some men tried to dig again near the cottonwoods. They thought the gold might still be there. They did not understand. They were never seen again. The rivers shifted unpredictably. One spring, a flood tore through what had once been flat fields. Barns collapsed as if the earth had rejected them. The irrigation ditches Mary Ellen had built were now trenches of mud. No crop could survive, and sometimes, in the deepest fog, a figure could be seen walking through the trees. Tall, silent, carrying a leather satchel, a figure that vanished when anyone approached. Some said it was Mary Ellen herself. Some said it was the land taking the form of the woman who had paid it so carefully. Others said it was something else entirely. The Miwok elders avoided the area completely. They whispered that the grove had become a bridge between the living and the forgotten. A place where the dead could breathe, where secrets could walk freely. People who lived nearby told stories. Fishermen swore they saw gold coins floating on the surface of the river at night. Travelers heard footsteps following them in the fog. Dogs refused to enter the fields where Mary Ellen had built her barns. No one dared stay near her properties for long. The gold she had returned did not vanish completely. It remained in the earth, hidden, waiting for someone foolish enough to take it. Even years later, some believed Mary Ellen had left for good reason. She had learned the land was hungry. It wanted more than coins and bars. It wanted souls. And she had paid the price so that others would not. By 1860, Sacramento had grown. The gold rush had ended. Most of the men who had chased fortune were gone. The city had replaced tents with brick buildings, mud with cobblestones. But the cottonwood grove stayed the same. The river still shifted unpredictably. The fields remained barren. Occasionally, people reported the satchel appearing in odd places. Near a barn that collapsed overnight. Beside a flooded ditch. At the edge of a riverbank. It was always empty, but the earth felt restless where it had rested. Historians years later could not explain why Mary Ellen Hayes vanished. They recorded her deposits. They recorded her land purchases. They recorded the rumors. But they could not record the truth. The land kept that secret. Even today, the Cosumnes River floods unpredictably. The cottonwood grove still stands. Travelers report strange shadows and unexplained sounds. Gold is occasionally found in odd places. But those who try to claim it often leave empty-handed. Mary Ellen Hayes had learned what most never do. That the earth remembers. That some wealth is not meant for men. That bargains with the land are not written in gold. They are written in something far more expensive. If this story has you captivated, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think the land wants now. Part 8 will reveal the men who tried to reclaim her fortune and the price they paid. Part 8. Some greed cannot be satisfied. Some secrets cannot be left alone. By 1860, rumors of Mary Ellen Hayes and her vanished fortune had spread across California. Men who had failed during the gold rush believed they could succeed where she had vanished. They thought the gold she had left behind was theirs for the taking. A group of men arrived in Sacramento that year. 40 in total. They called themselves prospectors, investors, men of ambition. But most of them were desperate. Broken. Hungry for a second chance. They had heard stories of the cottonwood grove. Of a black woman who had beaten the odds. Who had left gold behind in the earth. They believed they could find it. And this time, no one would stop them. The first man to enter the grove was Thomas Whitaker. A former miner from Nevada County. He carried a pickaxe and a small chest. He laughed at the warnings of locals. The grove had a reputation. Superstitions. Stories told by frightened farmers. He did not care. He struck the ground. The earth gave easily at first, but soon it resisted. The pickaxe would not penetrate deeper. The soil seemed to tighten. Roots twisted unnaturally beneath his blade. By dusk, he had dug a small hole. Nothing was inside. Frustrated, he left. That night, he disappeared. His companions assumed he had wandered into the river. They did not find his body. Only the shovel, lying broken at the edge of the grove. Fear began to creep in, but it was mixed with greed. They were not men who could turn back easily. They returned the next day with more tools. Axes, picks, shovels. By the third day, 10 of them had vanished. Some claimed to hear voices calling from the ground. Others said they felt hands brushing their legs. But they laughed it off as imagination. A cost of gold fever. The remaining men became more aggressive. They tore up the soil recklessly. They dug trenches and pits. They tore down the cottonwoods to get to what they thought was buried treasure. That night, a violent storm struck. Rain fell in sheets. Rivers swelled. The men huddled in the grove, terrified. Lightning struck a tree, splitting it in half. The wind seemed to push them toward the mud. By morning, only 3 remained. The rest were gone. No bodies. No blood. No sign of struggle. The survivors tried to leave. The grove seemed to shift beneath their feet. Paths they had followed yesterday were gone. The river had risen overnight. Mud sucked at their boots. The trees whispered in the wind. They realized something was watching. Not a man, not a beast, something older. They tried to make camp. One of them, an older man named Henry Caldwell, swore he saw a figure in the fog. A woman, tall, carrying a satchel. Her eyes glowed faintly. They ran, but the paths twisted, confusing them. Hours passed like minutes. The grove seemed endless. By dawn, they were found by a search party from Sacramento. Only 2 survived. The older man was babbling incoherently. He pointed to the cottonwoods and screamed Mary Ellen's name. The other survivor had scratches all over his arms. He refused to speak for weeks. Word spread through the city quickly. Mary Ellen Hayes was no longer just a story. She was a warning. Sheriff Coburn sent men to guard the properties, to prevent further deaths. But even he could not stop the land. He observed strange occurrences from a distance. Shadows moving against the fog. Shimmering lights. The feeling of being followed by eyes unseen. Historians later wrote about the Cottonwood Grove. They said it was cursed. That the gold had a guardian. That Mary Ellen had not just found fortune. She had awakened something older than men. By 1862, the grove was abandoned completely. No settlers approached it. The river shifted unpredictably. Floods destroyed nearby farms. The soil sank where the gold had once been buried. Even today, travelers report strange lights. Faint footprints appearing and disappearing in the mud. Coins that vanish as quickly as they are found. And sometimes, the faint sound of a woman walking through the fog. The men who tried to reclaim her fortune were never forgotten. Their names were whispered by those who lived nearby. A warning passed from one generation to the next. Greed has a price, and some debts cannot be paid with gold. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments who you think survived the grove and what they saw. Part 9 will reveal what the Cottonwood Grove became in the decades after Mary Ellen Hayes vanished. Some places never forgive. Some places remember every hand that touches them. Decades passed after Mary Ellen Hayes vanished. Sacramento grew into a city. The gold rush became legend. But the Cottonwood Grove remained. A scar on the earth. A place people whispered about but avoided. By the 1880s, the grove had taken on a life of its own. Fishermen told of nets torn to shreds by unseen forces. Travelers reported hearing footsteps at night in fields no one crossed. Farmers swore their crops rotted overnight. No one could explain it. Some said it was Mary Ellen herself, walking the land. Others said it was the gold. Waiting, hungry. The old barns she had built had collapsed long ago. Irrigation ditches filled with silt and debris. The properties became wild again. Vines, thorns, and weeds tangled the land. Rivers shifted without warning, carving new paths. By this time, Sacramento's children were told stories about the Cottonwood Grove. A cautionary tale about greed. About a woman who had outsmarted men who thought the world owed them gold. A woman who had disappeared into the land itself. One autumn, a professor from the University of California visited. His name was Arthur Hastings. He studied folklore and local history. He had heard the stories of Mary Ellen Hayes and wanted to document them. He walked into the grove with a small team. They carried notebooks, lanterns, and a few shovels. Hastings wanted proof, evidence, something tangible. The ground was soft. The air smelled of damp earth and old leaves. Fog lingered low over the river. The trees seemed to lean toward him, watching. They found no gold, no satchel, no trace of the woman who had vanished. But they found other things. Bones, tools, old coins fused into the soil, and faint footprints that appeared and disappeared in the mud. Hastings made notes. He photographed the area. He tried to map it. But each time they returned, the grove had changed. Paths twisted. Holes they had dug filled themselves. Rivers shifted. The team began to argue. Some believed the land was haunted. Others thought they were being tricked by memory and imagination. Hastings returned to Sacramento with his notebooks. He published a paper describing the grove. He called it haunted, a place where human greed met something older than men. A place where Mary Ellen Hayes had left a mark. By the 1900s, stories spread further. Railroad workers reported strange lights near the river. Children claimed to see a woman in gray walking through the fog. Dogs refused to cross the Cottonwood Grove. Historians and treasure hunters visited. None returned with gold. Some never returned at all. The land had a way of keeping its secrets. Local newspapers occasionally mentioned the grove. A warning for those who sought easy fortune. Some tried to dismiss it as superstition. Others quietly avoided the area entirely. The legend of Mary Ellen Hayes became part of California's history. Not for the gold she had found. Not for the wealth she had accumulated. But for the power she had walked away from. The land remembered her, and it remembered what she had left behind. Today, the Cottonwood Grove still stands. Travelers report strange noises, sudden fogs that appear and vanish, figures glimpsed in the trees. Gold sometimes washes up along the riverbank, shiny but fleeting. No one can explain it. No one can claim it. Mary Ellen Hayes' legacy is not in coins or land deeds. It is in the story, in the warning, in the knowledge that some riches are not meant for the living. That the earth does not forgive. That the past is never truly buried. If this story has kept you on edge, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think remains hidden in the Cottonwood Grove. Part 10, the final part, will reveal the ultimate fate of Mary Ellen Hayes and the secret that vanished with her. Part 10, some stories never end, some mysteries refuse to rest. The final chapter of Mary Ellen Hayes began not with a whisper, but with silence. By 1870, nearly 15 years had passed since she vanished from Sacramento. The city had grown, brick streets replaced mud, saloons closed and opened under new names. Yet the Cottonwood Grove remained untouched. Locals avoided it, farmers warned their children, hunters skirted its edges. Even the river seemed to bend around it, refusing to flow naturally through its banks. Mary Ellen Hayes had disappeared, but the land remembered. One autumn evening, a young historian named Clara Whitman arrived in Sacramento. She had read every account she could find about Mary Ellen Hayes. She was determined to uncover the truth. Clara approached the grove just before dusk. Fog rolled off the river like a living thing. The trees loomed over her. Their white bark glimmered faintly in the last light of the sun. She carried only a notebook, a lantern, and a small pack. She did not dig. She did not disturb the soil. She simply watched. Hours passed. The fog thickened. And then she saw her. A figure appeared through the mist. Tall, graceful, dressed in gray. Carrying a leather satchel that looked impossibly full. Mary Ellen Hayes. Clara froze. The figure did not move like a ghost. It did not flicker or vanish. It moved with purpose. Mary Ellen knelt at a familiar spot in the grove. The same place Samuel Pritchard had tried to dig years earlier. She opened the satchel carefully and removed its contents. Gold coins glinted, but there was something else. A small wooden box, worn with age. Mary Ellen set the box in the hole and began to cover it with earth. The air shifted. The ground seemed to breathe. The trees leaned closer, silent witnesses. Clara wanted to speak, to ask questions, but words failed her. Mary Ellen stood and walked to the edge of the grove. Her eyes, dark and knowing, met Clara's. No words were spoken, but in that gaze, Clara understood. The gold had been a distraction. The coins, the bars, the wealth she carried, none of it was the true treasure. The secret she had protected was older than men. It was powerful, dangerous, and it belonged to the land. Mary Ellen lifted the satchel and disappeared into the fog. Clara ran after her. The trees twisted, paths vanished. Mary Ellen was gone. Clara stumbled back to the riverbank, gasping. The grove was silent. The satchel remained empty. In the weeks that followed, Clara tried to return. She searched for the grove, for Mary Ellen, for the treasure. But the land had shifted. Paths no longer existed. The river had carved new channels. The cottonwoods seemed to move with the fog, always just out of reach. Locals whispered of a woman walking the banks at night. A figure in gray carrying a satchel. The legend of Mary Ellen Hayes had grown beyond gold, beyond land, beyond memory. And yet, the truth was simple. Mary Ellen had outsmarted everyone. She had claimed her fortune without greed. She had protected the secret that men would kill to possess. And she had vanished to ensure that the land, and its power, remained untouched. By the turn of the century, the grove became a place of caution. Treasure hunters avoided it. The rivers remained unpredictable, and the satchel, the gold, and the secret were never recovered. Mary Ellen Hayes became immortal not for her wealth, not for her defiance, but for her wisdom. She had known that some riches are not meant for men, that some secrets belong to the earth, and that the price of revealing them is far greater than any coin. Even today, people report seeing a figure in gray, a woman walking the fog, carrying a satchel, leaving nothing behind but silence. Mary Ellen Hayes had disappeared into history, and in doing so, she had become part of the land itself. If you were captivated by Mary Ellen Hayes and her story, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and tell us in the comments what you think the true secret of the Cottonwood Grove might be. This concludes our 10-part series, but the legend of Mary Ellen Hayes will never be forgotten.